Hello there everybody, this is Daniel James showing off Delver. This is a third-person action RPG that I made a little while back, but I finally found the time to record a little video of it to get it up on the portfolio. As you can probably tell if you're familiar with them, this is pretty heavily inspired by the Dark Souls series and other FromSoft games like Elden Ring, Bloodborne, that kind of stuff. And so it features pretty punishing difficulty, a stamina-based combat system, which is used to perform pretty much every action. You can see it in the green bar there, just gradually regenerate, but it means that you have to be very deliberate with your actions, otherwise you're going to run out of stamina and end up getting yourself killed. Our health bar is just above that in the red. I made the change from those types of games to have health actually regenerate, but very slowly, so it's still quite punishing. Here we've got our first enemy coming at us. Because this is a basic enemy, you can kind of train them around a little bit. They're not the brightest, they're just kind of a basic skeleton. If they get in range, they will attack you, and it does pretty significant damage. But we can return with our own sword attacks and dispatch him reasonably quickly, but not quickly enough that we don't take some damage back if we just stand there and try and fight him without playing smart. So what we saw there was that the basic attack, left click here on the mouse and keyboard to do that, and it does use a hefty chunk of stamina. So if I go down to this amount of stamina, I'm clicking and nothing's happening because I've not got enough to deliver an attack, and that's when you get yourself in a sticky situation. What else we can do is, as we're low on health, well not low, but you know we've lost some, and I want to recover it. Pressing Q here will use our heal ability. Now this is the equivalent of something like an Estus Flask if you've played Dark Souls. All those sorts of games have a similar mechanic of a limited healing capability. Now in those games normally it's a consumable item, so you have maybe a few of them, and you can only recover them when you get the checkpoints. Whereas in this, what I've gone for is a cooldown system. So it means that you can use it, but you have to do so sparingly and be quite careful with the usage of it. Here we have our next enemy. What I'm going to show you is the parrying mechanic. So by right clicking at just the right time, if I can manage it, as I said, it is quite challenging, you can parry. Now there is the parry. As you saw, my counter attack in response to the parry dealt a lot more damage than our initial attacks. So dealing with the first enemy, it took a good few hits to take him down, whereas that second enemy there, a single parry and counter attack was enough to take him out. So there's a window of time after you've parried an enemy in which you can attack them for a lot of bonus damage, which kind of just encourages you to play skillfully and be smart about what you're doing and go for those parries. But it is risky, because you have to wait till just the right moment. There's no block mechanic. You can't just hold down block to hold the shield up. I thought that would be a bit too convenient for this style of game, so instead there's just the parry. So you've really got to time it perfectly to raise your shield the exact moment the attack would hit you. And there's a little bit of leeway, but largely you've got to be pretty precise to be able to get that parry and get that weak point. The assets I've used here is the City of Brass for the visuals, which looks great. It's UE5, but my PC isn't very good, which is why the performance isn't the best, but it does look great. And I've done some nice lighting effects and stuff to kind of set the mood. And the character is one of the Paragon characters from Epic, which it looks great. Very good for the setting. So here we have our first ranged enemy. If we get into range of him, he'll start throwing firebombs at us, which deal quite a lot of damage, and he's very accurate and they move very quickly. So how do you get past them? Well, I'm just going to try and move well around him, and it's quite difficult. So how do you do it? If you die in this demo, you just kind of respawn back where you started. How are you supposed to get around a ranged attacker? You can just run straight at them. It is doable, but it's tough. And this is kind of to encourage you to use the parry mechanic again, which has a unique twist of when it's used on projectiles, does something very cool and very satisfying, which is deflection. So someone throws something at you, you can deflect it with your parry, which feels awesome It's a really fun little twist I've put there, if I do say so myself. As you can see, you can do that on ranged enemies, and in fact, the projectile is even able to hit other enemies. So if this guy had gotten in the way of that projectile bouncing back, it would have hit him instead. But that's a little bit trickier to line up. It's not especially reliable technique with the enemy placement I've done here in this level. So I'm going to pretend I don't know where the enemies are, because I've placed them in such a way that it's again mimicking the kind of Dark Souls stuff of it's effectively a survival horror where you've got enemies coming at you from angles you wouldn't expect, ambushing you, surprising you, and because the combat's so punishing, the stakes are very high, which encourages you to move cautiously around the level. The point of this level is these gems. Pick up a gem, and you need 3 of them in order to complete the level. You get 3 and then you go to the exit, and that's just for demonstrative purposes, to give you some sort of objective throughout the level. And this is effectively just a demo to show off the gameplay that I've designed and programmed here. So everything in this demo was designed and programmed by me. Obviously all the visuals and music and stuff isn't, but I put it all together. I think this is a good demonstration of the ability to put together a pretty satisfying action combat system. Obviously it has its flaws, which is mainly due to the animation, I'm going to say. But the principles and the actual systems involved are pretty fun and satisfying. I think overall what I've made here is a kind of version of the Dark Souls format that is in some ways a little bit more accessible and kind of straightforward fun that you can enjoy for kind of a shorter period, but is also in other ways has some increased skill expression with stuff like the block and parry mechanic. If I were to develop this further to kind of a more full project rather than the singular demo level, I'd have to incorporate, different weapon types, obviously more enemy variety and stuff. Some sort of progression system would be fun, and I've kind of envisioned it as a sort of a roguelike, effectively, where you play through the game and try to survive as long as possible through kind of semi-randomized levels, and progress that way and kind of grow your character and last as long as you can. So that way you kind of have a more of a popcorn game style applied to the Souls-like formula, which I think would be really engaging, and isn't something I see done currently. Oh, nearly died there. Excuse the occasional exclamations of fear, but I thought it was better to show the game off live rather than in some sort of scripted, edited video, in order to get the genuine reactions I have to playing it, because I think the actual systems and mechanics designed here are pretty engaging. Okay, you're going to have to excuse a slight cut there. As previously mentioned, I don't have the best hardware at the moment, and running UE5, especially a game like this, in which I've done some pretty nice looking stuff lighting wise. It means that my PC does sometimes struggle a little bit, but it's okay, because ultimately my PC performance is not the objective here. So these enemies here I didn't mention previously because they were too busy killing me, but those are our sword fighters. They are just effectively stronger versions of the original charging skeletons. They do more damage, they take more damage, they're upgraded in every way. And so now you've seen the 3 enemy types that we've got currently in the game. And I should now, hopefully, just be able to dispatch the last of these fireball throwing skeletons and finish off the level. So as you can see, the gameplay is relatively simple, but you can do a lot with simple mechanics by executing them well and paying attention to detail. So one thing to note in a game like this is to try and ensure that the combat has weight to it, which is something that's a little bit hard to do generally, but especially when I'm using a set of animations which I didn't make and don't really have that much control over. But this can be done mechanically as well. So what you'll notice is that any kind of action you take grounds your character. So if I want to run over here and attack, my character has to stop, take his time to attack before moving on. Now if you had a very advanced smooth animation system, what you could do is have him do kind of a running attack, or kind of slow down to attack, or something like that. But I thought, rather than overcomplicate things, we'd try and just make them attacks nice and weighty by having your character have to stop in his tracks to be able to do it. And also that forces the player to make more decisions, right? They can't just kind of sprint up to an enemy and swing at them. They have to know that, okay, if I'm going to decide to attack this opponent, I'm going to be stopped for a moment, which could put me in a dangerous position. So it's all about encouraging the player to be methodical. As you can see, I've gotten kind of decent at doing that deflection, which makes it look deceptively easy, but I assure you it's not. It's quite challenging and therefore quite satisfying to pull off. So we've collected all of our gems here, which means that when we walk onto this portal, it'll tell us, level complete, excellent, well done me. Only took me several deaths in the demo level of my own game. But that's the fun of this kind of gameplay style. So there you go, that's Delver. It's just a nice little action RPG demo that I've put together quite a while ago now. But yeah, I just wanted to make sure that it was really up to scratch before I put it here. I hope you enjoyed. Bye.